up, everybody? Welcome back to Common Sense, the podcast. We're back again this week from the Monarch Stag, hanging out over here, and we actually got the guy that's been helping us make all that happen this week. Welcome to the show, Derek.
Thank you.
Thank you, man, because this has been a blessing in disguise with what we've been doing with the renovations over where we normally shoot, and you've been more than gracious and kind enough to let us use your space over here. And man, we've had a blast having this space over here and hanging out with everybody after the shows. It's been a lot of fun.
Hope it's a good home away from home.
Yeah, man. You provide top-notch facilities.
Nice.
I can't
Thank you.
wait to dive into that with you.
Thank you.
For those of you that don't know, Derek Sims, owner, operator of, man, I mean, there's so many of them to list here. I mean, the first place where I ran into you, I think, is J. Theodore's with Rare Books. And now you have the Glen and the Stag over here. And I think even before that, and I didn't realize this before, it was one of my favorite places to go when I lived up in Savannah was 811.
Yes.
And I didn't even know you guys were part of that until I was doing my show research. I was
That's kind of where we started, yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, for those that don't know you, why don't you give everybody a little bit of background, like where you're from, where you grew up?
Sure. First of all, I just got to give credit to my wife. She's kind of my biggest business partner, and my wife, of course. She kind of is, we work side by side. She takes a lion's share of the business. So I think there's something we should talk about that later, about how a supporting partner in life and love in business is really good, really helpful.
Absolutely.
You know? We come from California originally, kind of started out as an entrepreneur like really early in life. Like I think at 19, I kind of like dodged out of college. I was still in college, but I started my first business, like a computer education school. Just couldn't stop. I didn't want to work for anybody, you know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of something that's in your blood. I think it comes from within, you know, you kind of have this urge to do something.
Yeah.
You know, so that was an epic failure. I think I worked for $150 a week and worked more hours than I do now, I think.
Yeah.
But I think it just plants a seed. I met my wife, and she encouraged me to move on to something else. We then invented a computer software program that did text messaging, and this is back in 2003, I think it was. And we created the patent on commercial text messaging, which most of you all know as like your bank texting you a code that you put back into the bank is not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the bank's not.
Like your two-factor authentication codes.
Any text message that comes from a business account, which is usually a 4-digit or 5-digit code, we created that way back in 2004, and that was kind of our claim to fame. When I sold the business with my wife, I think I had a business partner also named Omer, but we sold the business and we were doing 30 million text messages a month and making a few pennies each message. So it really ended up being good, but it was a hard business, 15 years. And when we sold that business, we had to figure out where we're going to go, what we're going to do, and California wasn't really the best place. It's just not the best place to
You were born and raised in California, correct?
It's just not the best place to raise kids, one, and it's also not the best place to gain wealth. It's just not set up for it. They don't want you to gain wealth, which is the opposite of the American dream, right? We're talking about the exact opposite of the American dream. Why would you want to, that's what we're here for. People come from other countries, all over the world to come here to be able to do anything. Yeah. And you could be from Venezuela, you can be from Africa, you can be from Argentina, and you can come here and start your business, and fail or succeed, you can do it. No one's going to stop you. And other countries like Venezuela, you can't do that. You can't start a business without it jeopardizing and be taken away from you.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about the United States. So when we came to Texas, it was a tax-free zone. So that's one of our reasons, and they had great schools, so it worked out good.
Yeah.
But when we got here, Frisco everyone moving here just had no restaurants. And so my wife and I were just haphazardly joking with an entrepreneurial mindset and a little bit of money in the bank. Not a lot, a little bit of money in the bank that we were willing to spend. And we said, we should open a wine bar like we had in LA, in Westlake. And then we're just joking, and then one day we talked about it over and over again, and we kind of pulled over. That's the 811 bar. We pulled over, and you're not gonna believe the story, but we pulled over, and the landlord was there, And we ran inside, and my wife was like, come on, this is stupid. I'm like, no, let's go ask. And he literally said, well, you could put a wine bar here, but it needs we knew nothing about restaurants.
Yeah.
This is 15 years ago. So
no background in the restaurant
We just know
business.
that it needed it, because back in 2011 or 12, Frisco was,
And what's Cherie's background?
She was in real estate, mortgage and real estate.
Okay.
Very smart with numbers.
Yeah.
And very good with interior design. We flipped a couple houses together.
Okay.
And she's really good at interior design.
So from the get-go, you guys both have business backgrounds in different fields.
But interior design is something that has really come in handy. I think each of us have our own strengths. Even my technology background has come in handy, and I'll explain that. And then, her ability to see a room and design a room is super important.
Yeah.
You see the spaces. You've seen our spaces. She does all of it. It's pretty neat. So we walk in, the landlord's there, and he's like, you could turn this into a wine bar, but we don't have a grease trap. And I'm like, what's a grease trap? And I go, what's this thing you have to have for restaurants? And he's like, and the plumbing would probably be $30,000. And then I'm like, oh man, that's a lot of work. He's like, but you know what? Next door is a small little restaurant, has 4 employees, and they're for sale. And he already had the grease trap. So that was at the time when we walked over there at 8/11, and we walked over there, and the owner's like, yeah, I'm selling this thing. I need to move on. I'll do it for $70,000. And I was like, that seems like reasonable enough. It's very low. We're talking early Frisco.
Yeah.
And
right on Main Street, though, for any of you that don't know. I mean, it's right in the heart of old.
Yeah, it's an old
Frisco.
House, 1,400 square feet, haunted.
Yeah.
Haunted house, and it's haunted. Yes, very haunted.
I want to hear about that.
It's very haunted. We had multiple things. It actually became kind of a trend, just so haunted. But we bought it for the next day. We bought it, and we were in business. And 12 days later, we were reopened after my wife. We put shiplap up and made it a whole new space.
Yeah.
And it was just a perfect timing. It really was the perfect timing, because it turned into a 4-employee doing, I think, $140,000 total a year. To when we were done, I had 88 employees, and I think we did like 2.7 million in a matter of 2 years. It was really fast, and it just was a lot of what we did, though, because we converted the backyard into fireplaces, so everyone got a fire pit. We added music. It turned into a really cool spot.
Amazing little s'mores kits.
Yeah, we had
you guys
s'more
had
kit,
badass
s'more.
charcuterie boards.
Yeah, we had
wine,
100 wines by the glass.
Awesome pizza.
Pizza and music.
Yeah.
Exactly what people needed. And I remember people telling us it was crazy that you can't have a patio bar in Texas. It doesn't work that way. I'm like, well, hell, why not? That's our California mindset, saying, I don't understand why not. There's plenty of days. And they were wrong. So don't listen to people sometimes when they tell you you're crazy. But we ended up selling that business, and that led to, we sold it, and then we couldn't even last maybe a month. And we're like, all right, what's the next restaurant? It kind of gets into your blood.
Yeah.
And we bought a French restaurant called Bonnie Roos. Pretty popular, but it was definitely not doing a lot of money.
Super popular, local, famous brunch place.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and so we bought that. And the first thing we did, since we had a non-compete on wine, since we sold the wine bar, they said you can't do wine. You can't do a wine bar for the next 5 years. So we, I'm sure like all your listeners have, is a obsession with whiskey collections, right?
Yeah, we got a big group of whiskey people in here. I'm a personal whiskey snob, and we got a lot of people on that do that. We'll do a little segment here in a minute before I forget that we do what are we smoking, what are we drinking? Well, we obviously aren't drinking anything at the moment, but we will get into what we're smoking here in a little bit.
So when I spoke to the guy named Alan from Specs, he's my rep and also my friend, I said, I think we should do a whiskey bar. And I think I want to do an allocated whiskey bar. And he kind of laughed at me like, no, you can't do an allocated. You're not going to get what you need. And I'm like, well, let's just try. Let's see what we can get. And I want it to have all the good stuff. In my naiveness, I want Pappy, and I want Weller, and I want everything. I want Old Forester birthday bourbon. I want everything. He's like, well, I'll get what I can,
Yeah.
He came back to me and said, listen, if you give me a blank check and I can bring you whatever the hell I want, I'm going to bring you stuff you don't want. I'll also bring you stuff you do want. And that kind of was the birth of this, what we do really well, actually, at both of our places. We have a fairly high number of really allocated stuff. I don't know exactly everything I'm going to get, but I'll get some interesting stuff. And a lot of times it really interesting stuff, you know. And he finds dusty bottles that are like collaborations of, you know, wolves and, you know, it could be anything. And then he brings it out, and I'm like, oh, I get tequila. You know, I got some really high-end tequila. It's got some really fun stuff that sometimes these bottles are $6,000 or $7,000. You know, but it's a good home. You know, we sit on for a while, but it's really fun because when you come in here, you can try something that you probably have never seen or heard of before, or it might be expensive, but you know, you're not gonna spend $6,000 or $7,000.
It was impressive how quickly when you opened that. I mean, because it was kind of the talk of the town. There was only like, I think when you guys opened that, if I'm correct, and I could be wrong, and I'm sure somebody will correct me on here down the road when this show airs, that there was only like 2 or 3 speakeasies like throughout the Metroplex.
Yeah, there was.
I mean, I knew there was one in Denton. There was like one in Dallas, maybe
Bourbon
2
and Banter in Dallas, and there's a couple others. And I went to those.
One in Fort Worth, but like nothing that really did it the way you did. So like those of you that have never been to Rare Books, like think of a very small room in Vegas where Frank Sinatra would be playing or something at a piano or a bar. It's dark, it's romantic, it's quaint, but then you have this bar wall that is nothing ordinary. Everything is either an allocated or dusty or rare collaboration bottle.
Yes.
So like you provide all that. Like I remember when I first went in there, like my older brother took me for my birthday and we went in there. I think it's the first time I met you. Actually, I know the first time I met you was actually at J. Theodore's. That's a whole nother story, but we got to talking about bourbon, and you and I actually had quite a long conversation about it. And I was super impressed at how you're telling me you just gave Guy a blank check from Specs, and I know who Alan is as well. And like, but yet you were able to pull in Dusties and stuff, and like, without going onto the secondary market, you know, that's super hard to do.
But it wouldn't have worked, and it was interesting because it started out like that's not going to work, and then now it does work, you know. And I think other people are starting to do it, but we take everything. Like I said, there's some stuff I don't want. I got some bourbon up there. I'm not going to mention it just to not throw them under the bus, but it just sits there.
Yeah,
it just sits there, you know, and it's okay. It's okay because someone gets it.
Yeah,
you know, but that was
fancy
fun.
Cocktail out of it.
That was fun. Yeah, it was fun. You always get that one Instagrammer or YouTuber that wants to make a crazy cocktail. I'll do it for him. I've had some $200 ranch waters made. I'll tell you that. Yeah, so
$200 ranch water.
I think one girl for her birthday wanted a Clauso Azul Day of the Dead ranch water, and we're like, I just want to make sure you know what you're ordering here. And she's like, yes, I know what I'm ordering here. I'm not saying anything bad about it. It's a $200 drink, and she's like, I want it. I want a $200 drink. I'm like, all right.
Wow.
And that's actually interesting about bourbon because I've learned over time, serving a lot of bourbon to a lot of people, that if somebody wants to try something, I learned this early. I remember I was really snobby at first. I'm like, no. I used to think, yeah, and I do like it. Angel's Envy, the rum one, you drink it neat, you know?
Yeah.
The rye, the rum. And this one girl's like, make me an Angel's Envy rye old fashioned. I'm like, no. This is bourbon. It's quality bourbon. We're going to make it neat, you know? And she's like, no. I know what I'm doing. I want you to make me a old fashioned, and I want you to try it. So I made one for her. Well, my bartender made one for her, made one for me. And she was right. And I think we pump out a lot of those Angel's Envy old fashions now. They're really good. And so there's nothing wrong with having a bourbon the way you like it. And that's kind of the whole premise, right? I mean, the whole idea is that you don't have to do it, you know, neat just because it's quality and it's nice and it's good stuff. You can definitely mix it in. It actually does taste better. A Stag Junior Old Fashioned is one of the best old fashions you can make.
Yeah.
And, or Stag now. But 133 proof, and add a little on top of that, you know, a little old bitters and a little bit of Demeria syrup. And
you can do a lot of cool things with that, man. I mean, when I was at Bourbon Fest in Kentucky, one of the famous bourbon families, one of the sons was up speaking, and he told a story because his dad couldn't be there because obviously it was right as COVID was kind of wrapping up, and they weren't risking, you know, Jimmy Russell being out in public, you know, and like, but they were talking about, he was like, he had a little old lady that stood up one time and was like, I got to ask you something. And he said, sure. She said, I bought a bottle of your rare whatever at the time, and ever since I was a little girl, you know, a younger child, I mean, this lady's like in her 80s, and she's like, I always put my bourbon with Pepsi. My son-in-law told me I was committing a sin to drink your bourbon with Pepsi. He goes, man, was it the best bourbon and Pepsi you've ever had? She goes, you're damn right it was. He goes, then that's all right with me. You drink your bourbon exactly how you like.
That's a true story. That does. I've come around on that, and I mean, obviously, there's some things I won't do, like Pappy or something like that. Macallan, those kind of things. I mean, that's just starting to get
There's a Pappy story, a famous Pappy story about that too, where Julian Van Winkle's son, I can never remember his name, was in a bar in Manhattan with his dad, Julian. He said, I'll go up to the bar, get the drink. Walked up, said, I'll probably butcher this. I don't remember if it's exactly right, but he was like, I want 1 cube of ice. I'll take that Pappy 15, neat, 1 cube of ice, and I want a twist of lemon. And the guy looked at him and was like, I can't do that. Like, you just need to drink this neat. You're ordering Pappy 15 year. Like, this is like a $75 shot. And the guy looked at him and he said, well, my grandfather liked to drink it that way. My dad likes to drink it that way, and I prefer to drink that way. So I think that's how I want it. By the way, Austin Van Winkle or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
This bartender amazing. Just got floored. And he's like, well, if the guy that created it, that's how he prefers to drink it, I guess it's okay.
Yep. Yeah, and I still like a lot of things neat, but I think it's definitely have learned that people can do it the way they want. It's their pleasure. They're enjoying it. They're spending the money on it.
Yeah.
It's just.
I just suggest that people, I mean, I don't know how you do that always in the restaurant atmosphere, especially with really high-end stuff. I would always just suggest that you just try a little bit neat before you decide to do anything else with it. If you've had that experience of trying it neat and maybe it's a little hot for you, you want a cube of ice in or whatever, then that's your right.
Yeah, that's why I definitely would run up that and say, try it neat, try it with a couple drops of water, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can do whatever you want with it. And that's what's really fun about the Bourbon Trail and going out and doing whiskey tastings.
Yeah.
So after we created Rare Books Bar and Jay Theodore, we remodeled that whole space using my wife's talents. We remodeled that space. It came out real nice. That went from 1.4 million when we bought it to now it does over 6.5 million. So it's really good business. And then we learned how to collateralize businesses. Everything. I'll just say this: in life, you gotta learn to get things done. And it takes a lot of time. So a lot of people talk about what they're going to do, but you have to learn to get things done. And that takes, everyone has their own technique. Our technique is coffee and a list in the morning and just get that list as much as you can of it done. You're not going to get everything done, but get everything done. So we learn to collateralize the businesses. We learn to work with bankers. We try not to partner with anybody because that could be kind of a blessing.
We call that don't just talk about it, you got to be about it. You can't just sit and talk about it forever. At some point you got to step into the fire and get things done.
Yeah. And so we collateralized, we got a good loan, and we started looking around at a next space because at Rare Books everyone's like, do you have a place to smoke cigars? Because we want to smoke a cigar. It just kind of when you're drinking bourbon, the next iteration of that is let's have a cigar, right? And I was always like, no, I don't have a cigar. And people don't realize how hard it is to create a cigar area. It's not like, oh yeah, just go by in that room over there and smoke it. No, you have to custom ventilation. It needs to be recirculated. It can't be your normal AC. It needs scrubbers. You need all these things, right?
Our fans are well aware of that because that's been our biggest battle. We film at Industrial Cigar Company. I know you know the Frakes, and part of our show has always been sitting and enjoying a cigar and having these kind of conversations. Yep. And when they started doing their remodel and then the space starts getting down, I'm like, well, I can shoot at my house. I can go out on the back patio when it's nice out.
Yeah.
But it's like, my wife ain't letting me smoke a cigar in the house. And it's not just easy to find a place that you can sit and enjoy a cigar when it's 20 degrees outside and the wind's blowing and you want to just go in and sit down and have it.
There's nothing better than smoking a cigar indoors.
Oh,
There's really nothing better.
Absolutely.
And I don't think people realize how much work it is to really get that way. And obviously have family or a wife that don't like cigars, right? So you can't just smoke in your house. It's just without the proper equipment for it, right? So when we started shopping around, it was really fun. This is during COVID, right after COVID. The Star here, we're at the Star now. And it's really, as you've seen, and some of your guests, maybe some that are local, have seen that the star has really transformed. The first round of the star was a bunch of businesses that really basically failed because they didn't put the right businesses in here, you know?
And a lot of them went real big right out the gates and didn't have the following.
We had a Jose Andres company, that's what this was, and it failed. So even like big names, he's like a big name, like he's like the Gordon Ramsay of like the European, realm. And he couldn't make it work because, you have to find ways to, capture an audience. That's not always easy.
Yeah.
So it was really fun actually because the next round after the first rounds failed, they were really scrutinizing who they brought in here, and they kind of just picked up on what we were doing. We were, doing really well at J Theater and Rare Books Bar. It's only 1,000 square feet, and it's a lot per square foot we're doing there. And he's like, "What are you guys doing there? How are you getting so many people in there and doing so well for such a small space?"
Yeah,
5,000 is relatively a small space. So they invited us to come over here. We pitched the idea. We pitched the Glen and the Monarch Stag, which we have now. We're in the Glen. It's based on a painting from Edward Landseer from 1851, and it's a really famous painting in Scotland. So we kind of thinking Scotch, and we're thinking, okay, Scotch, Scotland. Okay, let's do this painting. And the Glen is over there, and this is the Monarch Stag, and you'll see a huge red deer stag that we got shipped all the way from Inverness, Scotland, and it took like 9 months to get here. So he's hanging on over the fireplace, and he has 16 antler points, which is what you need to be a Monarch Stag. Okay, anything below that is
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it goes up in progressions. You have a Monarch is 16 or more, and then you have 14 or less is Imperial, and then you have a Royal Stag, and then it goes down just to a Stag. So a Monarch Stag is the creme de la creme, biggest, baddest, right? And this guy painted this painting in 1851, and he didn't tell anybody where it was, as the story goes, because he didn't want anybody to kill this thing because they're so rare.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we got his painting up on we killed his stag and put it up there.
That's awesome.
Not myself. But it was really fun. So the Glen's over there, and we attract customers by really focusing on Instagram and Facebook. Like, that's the new age marketing, right? And how do we do that? Well, we made aerial artist shows. We made lots of flowers and Instagram moments and areas to take photos. So, it's a blessing and a curse because I kind of don't love, that. But here we are on social media right now. But I kind of love all the photo taking. It's kind of like dominated our lives,
Yeah.
And I think it takes away from, but it is a viable business now. I mean,
absolutely,
it's a 100% viable business. And we leverage Instagrammers, influencers, and then we have everyone else who just comes in and does it for free. They basically post about us and pass the word around and promote our business basically for free for their own content, for their own FOMO, if it may be, right? Yeah. It's great. So
you might not know this. My wife and I are actually in your promo original video because Biz and Brandon invited us to that dinner. We did like the soft opening when they were shooting that.
Yes.
We had an absolute blast. It was a great time. So, that's something I want to talk about. And I think this would be a good transition because I know you want to talk about Cherie's influence on all of this. And you really, I think you cater a little more to creating different and unique atmospheres.
Correct.
And that's something that I think has been a big part of your guys' success and what you guys have done together is the feel. I mean, down to, and I know this has to go down to the most minuscule detail of stuff in your restaurants, from certain napkin or glassware or the way a room is lit to just between ambiance, feel, sound, everything. It doesn't feel like you guys, for somebody that never really started out coming from that and having that kind of schooling, to just your natural instincts were to create these things and to pay that much attention, I think is a big part of your guys' success, because you've done things that are super unique. Like you were saying, you have the acrobatics in here where stuff is lit on fire and you've got acrobats going on. You have a grand piano. You have some kind of amazing live music, whether it's jazzy or coverish or, stuff's being lit on fire. There's smoking drinks. There's, just a little bit of everything. Like, you can be having a casual, comfortable conversation in a corner, but look over there, you're captured by this event going on.
Yes. That really was something. It's really funny because that that's a lot of her, and a lot of our own shared experiences. So as we travel, one of our favorite things, like many people to do, is to go out and eat, and there's a lot of inspirational stuff.
Yeah.
We're in Scottsdale has a really good market, and so there's places like Toca Madera, which has fire and all those kinds of things, and they have a fire show. And then there's other things. We went to Mexico, you see things, and really it boils down to saying what's going to be different, what's going to be really interesting. And we were working with we had a designer, and we had a general contractor working on the restaurant. And we're trying to explain to them what we're doing, and we're going to have aerial. We need a beam welded to the ceiling. We have this thing, and they're like looking at us like we're fucking crazy. Like they're looking at us like we're nuts.
Yeah.
And we didn't even tell them everything. So all right, just make that wall green and make that one there, and don't worry, we're bringing a separate company to put a tree right here. And we just didn't tell them everything. And they thought we were crazy, and they thought we were like maybe almost a little, like they almost like dismissed us as a little almost amateur.
Yeah.
And it got us a little psyched, when we're building a $3 million restaurant. We're like a little psyched because we're like, hey, this is not traditional what we're doing. We hired like they collected driftwood from the beaches of California to make this tree we have over there. And it was like an $80,000 tree, but it's the same people that made the tree for the Bellagio hotel, right?
Yeah.
So like, I like it. Let's just do it, babe. It's an art installation. Let's do it. And she's like, yeah, absolutely. And she picked a tree, and we made them, like they said, we've never made a tree like this before, but we want it to look like this. We had a picture of something online, we made a storyboard. And I remember this, when it all came together, and they're welding beams in the ceiling, and they didn't want to do it. And they're like, this is crazy. What are you welding a beam? We need a beam to hold the acrobats in the air, right? And it had to be it has to support more than, it's got to be safe, right?
Yeah.
So we had it
10 times their weight,
like
or
10,000 pound beam, and we were testing with sandbags. There's like crazy stuff. We're doing crazy stuff. They're looking at us like we're absolutely nuts. Like they're like, we're not building restaurants like this. You guys are freaking
California
nuts.
people are out of their mind.
They're just like, you guys are nuts. They I don't think they really thought we knew what we were doing. They're just absolutely crazy. But then it's all done, and then it starts to succeed, and it succeeded really fast. We have just as much following here, and a lot of traction here. It's doing really well, probably more than we do over there, just because it's bigger. And the funny thing is, like, now they're coming back and like, can I put my name on this? Can I do some photos? Can I put this on our website? Like, it's so funny because so. I think if anybody's gonna start a business and you really get good at something and you feel like you're really passionate about it, that could be making beer, it could be making whiskey, it could be anything, really. Yeah. Once you walk down that path, obviously you may fail. There's no guarantees, and most likely you will fail the first time, but if you start small like we did, you started with 811, a small little product, and then you went to a little bigger product, and then you have a very big product now, and then we're working on an even bigger product in the future. I think, you just get better at it, and it gets easier.
Yeah.
So that can go to anything in life. I mean, you're going to start a cigar bar, you're going to start a bar, you're going to start, a real estate business. I mean, anything. You have to kind of like get things done like we talked about.
Yeah.
And you have to just keep plugging away, and then you have to the recipe is hard work and time. And I wish there was an easy way to do it. I wish I had an easy magical formula to say, oh, don't worry, you just do this and boom, it's going to happen for you.
Yeah.
But it's hard work and time.
And taking small steps and just constantly taking action.
And don't get greedy, right? So, you could go out and you can, I know a guy that during the time when rates were really low, he bought like 17 properties, right? And then the whole mortgage meltdown happened. And then like he lost all of his properties because he was trying to jump over go, right? To play Monopoly and not run the board 2 times and not collect $200. He lost everything. It just really, one of those things they had to do.
Yeah.
And we thought we were sunk when COVID happened. We had to close all our restaurants. Like that's like a crazy time, right? I mean, asking you to basically go out of business and give you no money for it. You can't be open. You can't be in business. You can't. That's where the speakeasy really came in to help, though, because we were doing hidden speakeasies, and that's where kind of was a true speakeasy again.
Yeah.
And so kind of was a lot of fun during that time, but it was really scary at the same time. Really scary.
I can imagine.
It's just really tough. But
for a Californian you have a lot of different aspects than what you typically, especially here in Texas, hear about.
Yeah.
And seeing that, like, you guys have a very different mentality than I think most Californians.
Yeah. Well,
to approach some of these things.
Well, I think the California background does help in one respect that because we saw a lot of development. You have an established community in LA. It's pretty established. It has a little of everything. You have 100 sushi restaurants, 100, a little of everything, right?
Yeah.
And here you didn't have much. And so the urgency for us to do, how do they not have this? How do they not have this? You know, but that's not today. Today, Texas and Dallas is probably even more, I think, more developed in the way they're going. You know, I wouldn't think LA, I would think Scottsdale, Arizona, Miami. I mean, there's just so much going on elsewhere because LA has got so many restrictions, unfortunately. But we did go back to LA and we were thinking about opening a speakeasy there, and we actually found it would be quite easy actually, because some of the things are easier. You know, like the rents are actually cheaper. You would think they're not, but we pay a lot for these rents here. And the rent.
You're in very prime real estate, my friend.
There's a lot going on here, a lot of rent. But, you know, shout out to Jerry Jones and the whole Cowboys organization. They've done a great job, and they're really proud of. They're really easy to work with. Actually, probably the easiest companies to work with I've ever been with. It's amazing, and so, you know, both of us, my wife and I, are very happy to work with them. They're easy. They're easy to work with, and they try to promote everything, and they're fun. We bring the players here. I get that celebrity aspect that I didn't get. I used to hear about in LA and no booths like that, but you get it right here. It's really fun. If you're here, you're gonna see someone famous. Yeah. You're gonna see someone famous. Just every time. We had someone last night. You know, so
yeah. And we're going to do a special next week for you guys. You know, I'll go ahead and announce it now since it's all set down and locked in now. All the Cowboy fans from back when we won Super Bowls and stuff, we've got George Teague coming up here. You know, he's the athletic director over in Plano now, and George is an awesome guy. He's been really gracious with his time. He's going to come here. And we're going to do a little meet and greet afterwards, too. He's going to sit here and hang out and smoke a cigar with any of you that are local that you guys want to come up here and visit the facility. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah, good bourbon and good cigars. So what are we smoking here, actually?
We are smoking, you are smoking one of DC's Genesis. That's a cigar that he did with Luciano. They've got a new one coming out in March. I can't wait to try. I thought I was going to get to try it last weekend, and I didn't make it by his event. But Jamon and Luciano have partnered up together, and that's what they've created. That's one of my favorite, like, just go-to, middle of the day, easy cigars.
Yeah, it's an easy smoking cigar, and it's really nice.
With a Habano wrapper, I mean, like, to me, it doesn't get much better than that for just a daily go-to. I'm smoking a Principal Koshan Night Flight. All you people that didn't listen to us when we told you ICC had some killer deals on these, because some of these still sit around, they've even broken them up now. So even though I bought several boxes of these that I don't plan on opening up, I had to go by and grab a couple more. This is one of my favorite cigars that I don't smoke all the time, but man, when I can, it's a really good cigar. You know, and difference being, you know, this has got a much more expensive wrapper that they make this out of. So these are a little pricier. You know, these are going to be a $30 stick when they have them, and they don't have them very often. Whereas what you're smoking is, you know, very comparable and a good cigar. That's a $11, $12 stick. You know, so you got all the little mixes there. What we go into next, I have no idea. I've also got a Bandolero here, some other stuff over there we might break into. So you said a lot of y'all's inspiration comes from traveling and stuff like that. When you guys start putting these ideas together, I mean, are you and Cherie that, you know, two questions here really, like, are you journal people? Like, do you like really journal and like kind of like write down and put these ideas down and plan? Are you more like vision board? Because you guys
We're vision board people.
Okay.
So what we do is, first of all, just live life, right? So we went to the Amalfi Coast. We got some inspirations from there.
Your pictures were amazing, by the way.
Oh, you saw those?
Oh man, I was sitting there like reliving it. I was like, nah, I gotta put this on my travel list.
That was a fun trip. Amalfi Coast by catamaran. You know, we got one of those 8-person catamaran boats and a captain. It was really fun. But that's a trip. You know, that's a trip.
Yeah.
But we will go ahead and she makes Pinterest boards of all things. She uses a good old Pinterest, and she'll Pinterest images. We threw all the images. I have to go get them for you sometime. I'll show you after those.
Okay.
But when you see the image board and you see what we created, you'll say, oh man, I can totally see it. So we created the image board. She kind of focused on the Glen, which is more of a martini bar, more her vibe, you know, and I focused more on on this side's look. And so we wanted dark woods and leathers. And so, you know, once you start looking, like you start typing in, like I typed in like leather booths, leather cigar lounges, and I started seeing things I like. And you'll see this now again, you'll be scrolling through Instagram, and now AI creates a lot of cool things, right? Yeah. AI creates a lot of cool things. You're like, that's dope. And I'll just save it. I'll save it, and I'll make all these little folders of like things I like. Even for a future house I want to build, I start saving that stuff, because when it comes down to it, you're like, you know what? You print those pictures out, you lay it all out, and you make it really draws a story for you of what you're looking for. Yeah. And so that's kind of how we work, and then we're always trying to throw entertainment in. So it's always going to have a live music venue and element to it. And there's a really old restaurant called the Old San Francisco Steakhouse. No one knows what it is, but I was doing some research, and the Old San Francisco Steakhouse is a Dallas restaurant that used to have
up Northwest Highway.
It used to swing. They used 35. To swing. The servers would go up and they would swing across the bar and then kick this bell. Very popular back then, but it was so dangerous. I mean, it looked hairball, right? It looked just like very dangerous. So we're like, we got to do that. We got to do that. That's really going to blow people away. But that kind of morphed itself into the aerial shows. You know, and the aerial shows are really fun. I mean, it's just like dinner with a view. I mean, that came from a little bit of Mexico, a little bit of all the things. You know, it's like, where do you go? I don't know anywhere that has dinner and a show like that. You can sit there and dinner and watch an aerial artist do a thing, or we have a fire person that does a fire dance too. So, I mean, where do you see those kind of things? It just doesn't exist, you know, but it does now. And hopefully no one can copy us, because, you know, after the speakeasy, and I'm not trying to say that it's a flattery, to be honest with you, but I feel like 17 speakeasies popped up afterwards, right? So there's one in McKinney, and there's one here, one there. There's a million speakeasies, right? But it was in vogue, right? It's in, you know, that's the trend. Let's do speakeasies now, you know, and Browns are so popular right now. So kind of, I'm not saying we started the trend. I'm just saying we just kind of, I felt like we were kind of one of the first to it. I know we're the first speakeasy in Frisco, so that was fun.
Definitely we're there. Yeah, I mean, and you guys did it the like old school way with the phone booth, and
we even have a little latch that opens and closes.
It's so cool, man. Like for any of you that haven't checked it out and you're ever in the Frisco area, I highly recommend it. Fun, yeah. The hospitality there is phenomenal. I mean, and the thing I love too is even watching you as these have progressed, you and your wife are always, I mean, unless you're on vacation, which is very rare. I mean, I've caught you a few times, but, you know, when we were trying to set this up, but you guys are always there and a part of it.
At some property, yeah. I mean,
you know, you're at one or the other. I mean, I'm not saying you make it to each one every day, but I mean, you spend time at each one and you're still there going around talking to people. How's your drink? How's your service? How are things going? Like, you guys stay very involved.
You have to like what you do. You have to like what you do, and you shouldn't look at it as work. It is work, and I get tired. Everyone gets tired. My wife gets tired. We're like, drag ourselves out of bed every morning, right? But, you know, you have to like what you do, and once you get your pants on and get here, it's fine, you know. Yeah. You enjoy it. You're never lonely if you own a business, because you have, you know, all your friends and your work family, right? And they're all here, and they are family, and you're all working for the same goal, you know, to try to just succeed and do well, and everyone makes money. Yeah. So that's really fun.
What do you guys put in, and what do you guys do to help keep balance there with all that you do to make sure you're still allotting enough time for family, friends,
that probably is the hardest part. It's probably the hardest part. It's lucky that we work together, because I think if it was like one of us working and the other not, it would be hard to understand. And that probably happens in a lot of Flint families, where you have the woman working a lot and the man, or vice versa, right? So I think you have to dedicate some time, definitely take some vacations, and definitely not worry about, you never will not worry, but you need to let the business will, I think it's like raising a child, right? You just got to let it be sometimes, right? You're like, all right, it is what it is. You know, I'm not going to be there, and I'm sure something will go wrong, and you'd be surprised what people step up to make sure. So as long as once you're there enough to people understand what your vision is and what you want, what they want, you know, they will try to echo that vision, you know. And we do a lot of turnover. We have a lot of hiring and firing, but lately, once you dial in your people, they're great. You know, they're like your best asset. So people is your best asset.
Were you raised in a family that did these kind of things? I mean, what was your family like growing up? I mean, mom, dad, like, how did you learn these things and these skills?
I think it's inherited. I think it's in your blood.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's two types of people, right? There's, you know, risk takers and non-risk takers, right? So risk takers are the ones that are ready to lose it all, and you will, you know, and then you'll build it back up, you know. COVID, point example, I think we lost everything, you know, like you had to build it back up, right? But you have to be willing to, it's scary, and I hate to even say, like, I don't even want to endorse this, but like, you know, I think on our first project, you know, and the second project, we like mortgaged our properties, and, you know, everything's on the line, right?
Yeah.
You know, they're like, all right, the bank's like, oh, I'll do it, but you got to give us, I think to get this one going, we leveraged the other one, right? So if this one failed, we would lose both, right? They would just, you would have to take it. But I think when you have that kind of skin in the game, you're gonna make sure you're there, and you're gonna make sure it succeeds, right?
Yeah.
So if you lay out that risk, and you're gonna do it, you have no choice. There's no option, right? There's no option to fail when all's on the line, right?
Absolutely.
So like I said, I think it really boils down to everything in life. I mean, if you risk it and you work hard and you add time, it's the recipe, you know.
Where do you guys go when you're looking at like what kind of menu and food you're going to do? Because you've done very different things, you know, from the wine bar that, you know, we talked about that earlier. You know, when you started out, it was charcuterie boards, s'mores kits, and pizzas with wine, to, you know, you come over here and it's, you know, or then you have J. Theodore's, which, you know, you had the old history there of what type of food, more Americano, but kind of French. And, you know, you had those things going there. And I've not seen you guys take something like that. And you didn't veer real far, but you still brought some of your own in.
Definitely.
And then over here, you know, you've got steak, sushi, seafood, you know, you kind of get that. And then you've got the kind of more classic stuff here where you know, you're sitting around because it's more, like you said, a martini bar, whiskey, cigars. You know, you've got oysters and Wagyu sliders and just different things. How do you guys approach that, and how you look at your menus and stuff?
Well, when we came here, we knew we wanted to do seafood because there's other steakhouses in the area, so we're like, we're going to do seafood. So that was just the general premise, right? We're going to do seafood. And, you know, we hired an executive chef, and we started going through the menu. When you open a restaurant, it's always going to start out with, you know, some concept that, you know, about 60% of the items are going to work and 40% are just going to be trash. They're not going to work, you know? So anybody that came to the restaurant at the very beginning, they should enjoy the process. They should have, I had some people complain, this tastes terrible. It's like, this is awful. And it's like, well, we were trying something, you know, and we threw it out there, and now we know. And that, I think, you know, you make something and then you dial it in, right? So I would confidently say now, after being open for 2 years, that everything on the menu is good, because you really go through it and go, this is not working, let's get rid of that. And that's just being a present owner and being around, right? And so you're like, this is not working. And then you discover things that work really well. Like our jar of lobster is this weird jar of butter and lobster in it, and just sells like hotcakes. And then we were selling shrimp, this really fun shrimp. It was just a shrimp cocktail type thing with jumbo shrimp, and nobody was getting it. And then now we make this fire rock shrimp, where we take these rocks and we light it on fire and put the shrimp on top of the rocks, and it's like comes to your table on fire, and it's our #1 selling dish. And it's
good.
It's the same thing, but just the presentation is different, right?
Yeah.
Because our eyes, you know, that goes for cocktails too, and drinks and everything else, you know, and you know our cocktails all have some flair to them, right? So so you guys start to dial it in, and you really, you know, it's okay. You're not going to get it right the first time. You just got to come with the general concept. I'm going to do seafood. And the other place is more of a French-inspired fusion, you know, and then we ended up coming a little bit more centered. And so we added some pastas and things, that steaks and pastas that people can get into, and chicken. But we still have some French items on there that are really good. Like our chicken paillard is really good. It's like a French dish that's really nice. So, anyways, you know, I think the next place we want to do is a barbecue place. So, you know, really, and that's very Texas. So, you know, you really just kind of come with a general concept, and then you just dial it in over time. You just kind of figure it out, you know, and like you really dial it in. But you have a chef team. I think we have on the chef side, we have 25 on this side with executive chef, sous chef. You work with them, you know, they're really good, but we like to put influence into it and talk about it. We know what you like, right? So you're like, oh, this tastes good. I like it. let's do this. And so, but the executive chefs will know how to get that done. A lot of it, again, is also going out and experiencing things, so
inspired by travel there.
Yeah,
as
travel
well.
And find stuff. I think we, the Amalfi Coast had some fun drinks that we got that we came back with. There's, the Aperol Spritz, of course, everyone has, but they make a different Spritz. That's a version that they only make in Amalfi.
Can you plan a trip to Spain for me and come back and have like the best sangria in the world?
Oh yeah.
Because I went to Spain with my wife and it has ruined sangria for me.
Oh man.
Because it's just so much better over there.
I had to do that. I've been to Spain, Barcelona, and Madrid, and I was actually really impressed with the food there. It's really good.
It's amazing.
So
man.
Rome the food wasn't great, but in Spain the food was really good, and really fun area.
Yeah.
So.
What about, how do you look at evolving? Let's go to your drinks, because like you do a lot of cocktails, but you and I are kind of talking about this because we both have a passion for spirits, and your spirits collection at all your places has grown significantly from day one. I mean, I've witnessed it over the period of time, and it's fun to watch that. But I know, like me personally, my bourbon journey started with me barrel aging my own old fashions, because I had this amazing old fashioned at the Armory in Dallas called the Bonnie and Clyde. And I thought it was absolutely insane. They were using some extremely expensive scotch to rinse the glass before making an old fashioned.
Yeah.
And it added something to it. And I mean, at the time, I thought I hated all scotches.
Yeah.
It took me much later in my journey to realize I just didn't like peated scotches.
Yeah.
And that there's a whole nother world of scotch that is not peated or is peated less.
Yeah.
That I do like.
There's some no peated scotches.
Yeah.
Sherry,
And then,
she liked the sherry, probably the sherry stuff.
Yeah. Sherry aged casks and all this other stuff. And then, then it went from there to, I found an amazing old fashioned in Colorado, and I was there with a client, and for Christmas he saw how fascinated I was and this guy had a little 5-liter barrel that he was barrel aging his own old fashions. Well, what shows up on my doorstep at Christmas? A 5-liter barrel with the company logo on it and his recipe for old fashions.
That's fun.
So then I start doing that, and then that just keeps evolving. But then it goes down this journey of, you start off liking really low proof whiskeys and bourbons, and then you start getting up there in proof, and then you start getting barrel aged stuff and stuff in different barrels, and it changes. And then next thing you know, you're drinking Armagnacs, cognacs.
Yep.
Now you like scotches, and there's this natural evolution as you go through that then, and I'd say in the last year I've bought more tequila than anything, and tequila's making a big surge now. I think rye is going to be the next thing, because rye hasn't been as popular because everybody just thinks rye is spicy because they had one spicy rye, or somebody made them a shitty old fashioned with rye, when really most of the time I prefer rye in my old fashioned, but a lot of people don't because they have this spice fear. But there's been more barrels of rye aging in these warehouses because it hasn't sold as well in the past decade, that you're going to start seeing that, I think, in the next 2 to 3 years, that you're going to start seeing it. Here's a 15 and 18-year-old rye that's going to start blowing people's mind, and then that's going to be the next allocated thing. So I know you've gone through a similar journey. How do you plan to grow and adapt with that, and how have you done that with spirits in your places?
So we definitely have a good cocktail program we had to build. We had found some passionate people that work to help craft our cocktails, and now they are kind of autonomous. But it all started with, when we're born in life, we don't even like coffee, So our taste buds change. So you'll definitely change. And I know a lot of young people that drink whiskey and they don't like it. They're like, oh my gosh, and then, like, how do you like this? Even women. I've seen a lot of women come to whiskey. And that's
your wife. That's one of my favorite posts, where you posted that, like, she didn't like whiskey or bourbon at all. And then you take her to Kentucky or something like that. And she comes back, and what's the first bottle she grabs is, like, the Pappy 20, off
she likes
the
Angels.
shelf.
She likes Angel's Envy. She likes the rum finish stuff. So that kind of changed everything, really, was, bourbon, and it has really evolved. And it's, like, actually a relatively young maybe 15 to 20 years. I think when I started, bourbon was starting to get traction again, which is really funny. I think it's reaching a pinnacle of like its success right now. Yeah. I remember that we went through a time where it was gins and vodkas in the 70s and 80s and 90s. Like it wasn't bourbon. It was like bourbon was a dead, dying breed, you know? And here we are with the resurgence of bourbon, you know, brown spirits and all kinds of fun stuff, and tequila. So I think you'll see a lot more tequila. We really have a very low number of tequilas when you really think about it that have made it up from Mexico. And there's more and more people importing tequila and coming in with tequila. So tequila is being aged and being really well made. Yeah. So you'll see a lot more tequila. Of course, you see a lot of collaborations in bourbon nowadays. So you'll see two massive companies working together and making fun spirits. I think a lot of the barrel age finishing is getting really creative. You know, you'll see it. And then bars are doing their own thing. So like we have a leather bag out there that we got from the shepherds of like, you know, the European shepherds that keep bags. So we have a leather bag and we put our bourbon in there and then we make a drink out of that. And it has a leather taste to it, you know? So that really comes from them just being creative and being artistic with drinks. Yeah. And here we are, you know, we're serving a $20 or $22 cocktail. And it's fun. So we, you know, definitely get creative with it. So we make our own bitters. We make our own, you know, they're out there doing, you know, I had one guy he took Campari and he dried it out and then he chopped it up to a powder and was using it as a garnish, like, and also putting a little bit in the drink, like just really getting really creative with it, and he made a candy out of it or something. It was really interesting stuff. Wow. So, yeah, with simple syrup and candy. So it takes time. You're not going to be able to do this stuff at home, which is really fun about bars, right? Because, I mean, you could, but, you know, they dedicate themselves 8 hours a day, 4 hours of prep time just working on cocktails, right? And they're getting creative and they understand mixology like everything else. So it's always fun to go to a bar. It's always fun to go to a bar like this where you can try something totally different. And I hope to God it doesn't taste like everything that tastes like chicken, right? It should not taste like anything comfortable. Yeah. We failed if it's something like, you know, when I get into a speakeasy in New York, I went to the one that behind Criff Dogs, the dog place, and every drink was interesting and kind of odd tasting, to be honest with you. But I really loved that part of it because it wasn't. If it just tasted like an old fashioned, or if it just tasted like a cosmopolitan or something like that, then I'm not getting anything unique, right? So every drink was like almost strange. I don't know if I loved it or hated it or loved it. I kind of loved it too. And I drank it and I didn't pound it. I just drank it and it was, you know, and it was like, oh, that's interesting. So that's the fun part about it. And same with food, right? So you really enjoy that part of it. And so I think the future, like I said, tequila, ryes, I agree with you, ryes are doing things higher proof, lower proof. And I think it's fun, you know, if you understand how the whiskey making process works. So go do some tours, go places, understand, you know, pot stills versus column stills versus how it works. Understand that vodka is the same as gin, but just added juniper berries and other botanicals, right? And understand that bourbon is basically like lower proof vodka that's put in barrels, right? So understand that if you really start to get into it, understand how it all works and how distillation works and those kind of things. That'll help you understand and appreciate it more.
Yeah, one of my good friends is a distiller up in Indiana, and it's one of the reasons I was initially drawn to him. It's Alan Bishop with Spirits of French Lick. Mm-hmm. This guy's bringing back heirloom corns and all kinds of stuff, you know, and like growing stuff on his farm just to play with it. And, you know, he's bringing back absinthe. I mean, absinthe is starting to take off again because he's been pushing this and doing great things with it. And I love to watch that because, I mean, most of these spirits aren't too far off from each other. Yeah. Like there's a little tweak or twist here and there, but the process is generally pretty much the same. Yeah. I mean, distillation is distillation. Yeah. I mean, that's why I make fun of my brother-in-law all the time when I see him bring in some like $200 bottle of Russian vodka. I was like, oh, is the water from Russia that much better than the water in Poland or, you know, wherever? And, you know, my Tito's taste pretty good. I mean, I don't know many people that sit and drink straight vodka. Not many. That's pretty hardcore. I mean,
a tasteless, baseless spirit. I mean, that's basically what vodka is.
By definition. Yeah. So the only thing difference is the water it's cut with. Yeah. So did you think that water from Russia was better than the $49 bottle of Tito's you can get at the store?
I think there's a huge
You're making a cocktail.
Yeah, there's a huge misconception. Just people just don't understand that, you know, what they're drinking. But But with bourbon, there's a lot of mistakes you make, and there's a lot going on with the yeast. And because remember, with bourbon, you're only distilling out. You know, if you're distilling any more than 140, 150, you're taking the taste out of it, right? So so they should be distilling it, much lower than that. So you're leaving a lot of those base grains and whatever you use, that avant-garde blue corn, and that rye and that whole mash bill that you made is in there, and that's what you're tasting on top of then the finishing product. But what a hard business here, and you wait 4 years, you don't know what's going to do. You put it in a barrel, you have no idea what it's going to taste like.
You don't know if it's going to suck or it's going to be the best thing in the world.
You're only assuming, and I think everybody probably, a lot of men, women too, but I think mostly men dreamed about owning a distillery because it looks a lot of fun, right? But I don't know. That seems like a hard way to make money because it takes a long time. But so bless those guys for spending generations making it, right, and doing it. And
you want to see what that really looks like? Go follow Alan Bishop on any social media platform and watch all the nitty gritty that goes into that. It's not as sexy and fun as most people think it is. I mean, you better have a passion for it, because
just get yourself an 8-gallon still and do some home distilling illegally, because that's the best way to learn and figure out if you really like it. And it is pretty addicting, actually. It's pretty fun, but yeah, I mean,
that's something you've played around with.
Absolutely. Oh, I think that's the first thing I did, and I have a few friends of mine. We all just enjoy doing it together. So we will we'll definitely work, make something fun. And it's very time. It takes you 7 days just to make one thing. You make a jar of something, right? Yeah. And then you're like, whoa, that tastes like shit. Like wow, So I think we made an apple cinnamon thing. We put way too much cinnamon in it, and you can't get it out. And if you burn it, scorch it, it's there forever. So you can get better at it. And it's definitely a learning process, and you appreciate whiskey a lot more and how much time goes into it.
What have you made that was really good?
I made a 150 proof moonshine that's damn good. I put some rye in it. It's mostly a high rye. It's really good. So I like the ryes. Who doesn't, right? And I tried doing wood spirals. That don't work so good. You'd think it would, but it's very hard to get the ratios right. But barrels, if you get a mini barrel, you can do really well. Put in a mini barrel. There's something that happens in the barrel that just makes it's just the right coat, the right surface area, and the right char, and you can get pretty good spirit out of there. It's really fun to drink. It almost tastes better than, because it's yours, and you can taste like the home craftness to it. You taste a lot more of the corn. You'll taste that corn liquor, if you use corn, or you'll taste those spirits. And remember, they're doing things on a mass scale, so there's
and you got to take into account that your surface area is different than them in these 100-gallon barrels.
It doesn't take that long.
Stuff,
you can do it in 8 months, what they can do in 3 years, because you're doing it a lot smaller.
I always suggest people just, if you're going to try and play with the barrel aging, you got to turn the barrel, even if it's one of them 5 liters, every week.
And get a new one. They're online. Get a new one.
Don't try cleaning them all the time. That's a horrible, horrible way to go, and you'll spend $500 pouring stuff into it that is all ruined within a very short period of time. And I also suggest too, you got to take notes and study it. Every week, take a little pour out of it, see what that has done to it, and taste it. Yeah. Because every week you're gonna find a sweet point. You're gonna take it past the sweet point, and then it might go back again, or it might not. It might just keep going south. You don't know.
It's a little bit of art and a lot of science, and a little bit of art too. So, and that's the beauty of it. There's so many variables to it that there is never going to be a bourbon that tastes like someone else's bourbon, because there's so many variables to it, where you got the cooperage from, where you get the wood from. So there's so much to it, but it is a lot of fun. And if you're a geek about that stuff and you really enjoy it, there's nothing better than doing whiskey. There's a certain nostalgia to it, just to making whiskey. It's really fun. And, making the wort, or, before you distill it is an art form in itself. And watching yeast do its magic is really interesting, and being able to understand how you turn sugar into alcohol is like just the ultimate science experiment, right? Yeah. It's so fun. You're like, there's no way. I can't believe this is actually working. Yeah. So it was a lot of fun.
I had a buddy that was playing around with doing his own shine and stuff like that, and I remember he made the first batch, and I'd seen he had a couple of those. Someone had gifted him a little bunch of the little barrels and stuff. And he called me. He's like, "Man, this tastes like absolute shit. This is terrible. I'm just going to throw this all away." And him and his old man were kind of in a pissing battle of who could make the better shine. I said, "Hey, why don't you try throwing it in one of those barrels you have for a little while and just see what it does? You're going to dump it out otherwise. So, what do you have to lose?" He put in that barrel, And in about 3-4 months, he had something really solid.
If you don't understand that, 90% of the taste comes from the barrel. So really, it's a lot is from the wood. And I think most distillers will tell you that as you start doing tours in Kentucky. Most of it's the wood. So much, in fact, that they take the same stuff at Buffalo Trace. It's the same stuff. I mean, the same juice, the same mash bill, the same everything. And they make Weller, Buffalo Trace, Eagle Rare, Blanton's.
Different warehouse, different
rack, different wood, cooperage.
Different side of the warehouse.
But it's the same juice, and you got every brand you can possibly imagine is out there that comes from Buffalo Trace, and they all have different calibers and different price points.
There's only like 4 mash bills.
I know.
And they make, 20 different products
stuff out of you didn't even realize was the same. It's the ultimate magic show is those guys and what they've done to the business, making 50 different, 30 different labels, and you have no idea what you're drinking.
This one's allocated. This one's not.
And it's the same thing, just different age statements, everything else. So really fun. What a great company.
So when you're not in Derek business mode, family mode, what are some of the things you like to do? Hobbies, things to do? Because I see some things like you seem to be pretty fascinated with fireworks, and you used to put on some pretty epic fireworks shows I've seen.
I do love fireworks. That's always a fun thing. I just started out simple, and then I made a whole rack and case, and I think I was rivaling some of the neighboring lake houses with a show. But lately, I have 2 really interesting passions. I just got my pilot's license. I love flying. I was flying this morning, actually, so that's a really fun thing to know how to do. And so that's great. And then I've been sailing since I was a young boy, and I still do a lot of active sailing. So I sail on the lake here and go to regattas on the east and west coast.
How did you get into sailing?
That's is
this just a California thing? I mean, how did this happen?
We were in Marina Del Rey.
All this yacht club stuff.
My mom put me in. My mom and dad put my brother and I into a sailing program when we were 8 years old and became sailing instructors, and I just love that. So 2 odd things that most people don't say they can have their resume is they are professional sailers, and we race regattas all over the United States, and then the pilot's license is really fun. I really enjoy flying. So we're currently flying. I'm learning to fly a Cirrus SR-22T, which is a really nice plane. So it's great, 4-seater, has a parachute, but that's like the highlight of my life. And of course, spending time with my kids and my wife, and going skiing and doing other things we do. My wife and I travel as much as we can, and we love to share time together and go to restaurants. It's our favorite thing to do. I mean, I think I'm not talking out of the box here. I think everybody enjoys going to a different city, trying their fare, their food, that kind of thing. It's just a lot of fun. So
that's one thing I've seen helping in Texas. But when I first moved here, it was amazing to me how many people were born and raised in Texas and never been outside of Texas. I mean, granted, Texas is a massive state. And I spent some time up in the Northeast before I moved here, but I was born in Oklahoma. So, I'd seen and been around all that. But, in the Northeast, you can drive 30 minutes in any direction and be in another state.
Yeah, we're in the United States, but we still have what I like to say multiple countries right here in the United States. You don't have to fly somewhere. I mean, the Colorados are totally different than the Louisianas, and you start going to the East Coast, and I've been in Vermont and Connecticut, and you're like in Rhode Island, and you're like, this is a totally different country too, right? So, and then you have the beaches of Miami, and you have California, of course. So, it's just really fun to travel, and we have 2 lovely kids, and they love traveling too, and so we enjoy just spending time with family. That's it. I mean, that's just the
How old are your kids?
Life. I have a 19-year-old that's in college at the University of Arizona, and then I have a 15-year-old that's just in high school right here in Addison, and he loves it. So we have so much fun, and we travel together, and it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool. And yet, you have a twin brother, right?
Yes,
Not just a brother. You have a twin brother.
Evil twin. My evil twin.
Evil twin?
Yeah, he's evil twin. He's good though. We grew up together. We got in a lot of trouble together and traded girlfriends and the kind of things because we're twins. So, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, but how much twinning do you look like? It's like I want to compliment you too, man, because I said this earlier before the show. I don't think I would have recognized you if I hadn't seen the promo pic. If I just ran into you in the store, I went on this journey about a year ago. You and I talked about that a little while ago too. I'm down 50 pounds. You've superseded me by a little bit, I think, there and in the weight loss department.
Yeah,
but kudos to you, man. I want to congratulate you on it because I know how hard it is.
Yeah,
but what have you done and how's that changed?
Both my wife and I have lost weight. I think I'm 75 or 80 pounds down. And really it boils down to, you work hard and you start to just get somewhere. And then the biggest jerk as a doctor, but I love him to death for saying it. But he's like, you're going to die in 10 years if you just keep eating the way you're eating and putting the stresses on yourself and not taking care of yourself. And he's like, do you want to make all this money and just not enjoy it? You want to die and not enjoy it? And he was like blunt and serious. So I was pretty upset when I was driving home that day, and I said, you know what? Do I really need to eat those donuts and those steaks and those kind of things? Do I need to put that fat in my body? Do I need to do it?
Yeah.
And so I started out with just really starting to eat leaner, vegetarian type stuff, and then I incorporated back into like some chickens, and I just really watch what I eat now. And my wife and I, we do it together, so it's really easy. There's a lot of help out there. I mean, most of the Ozempics and semaglutide stuff really helps you.
Yeah.
And there's easy ways to get that. You don't have to get the Ozempic stuff, which is so expensive. So get the semaglutides. You can find stores that do that for $180 or something a month. And those help because they take the cravings out. You can really accomplish your goals with that. I think it's a kind of a miracle drug. You can definitely take it, and it'll help you with, it starts, you have to have the mindset, I'm not going to eat this anymore. I'm not going to drink as much as more. You can still enjoy bourbon. I still enjoy drinks and cocktails. I don't get pissed drunk, So, and then you just eat right, and then you eat sensible, and you got to stick to 1,800 calories. 1,500 calories a day if you want to lose weight, and then you want to balance your 2,000 max, So you start counting, you're not having French toast in the morning. You're not having French toast in the morning. You're going to have egg whites, maybe an omelet. And you're gonna throw some vegetables in that mix.
And balance. You're gonna go drinking tonight, so like I cut out 200-300 calories right there. Every bourbon I have is gonna be 150 calories.
Yeah, you have to really think about it. It's not that hard once you start thinking about, okay, I'm at 500 right now. Okay, let's see, quick search on Google. I'm at 500 right now. I just ate that whatever, and okay, I got 1,000. I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna maybe skip lunch and I'll have a nice dinner that I can enjoy, and I'm gonna.
So have you completely cut red meats out now?
I don't. I have steak once a month maybe. And I used to eat a ribeye or a steak 3 times a week, because it was available to me. Stay away from red meats. I think the biggest thing is wine. People drink a lot of wine sometimes. They think, it's harmless, but you wouldn't drink 17 Cokes a day, would you?
Right.
So 200 calories each. Not even 17. You wouldn't even drink 10 Cokes a day.
Yeah.
But when you're drinking 2 bottles of wine and enjoying yourself, you're basically doing the same thing. So
I think a lot of people get confused too. And this is one thing my coach, I hired a weight loss coach to help me with it, because I was always the guy that couldn't put on weight when I was younger. And then when I got fat, I didn't know what to do to change that. Like just working out and doing the stuff I did before was not working.
I've lost all my weight, and I haven't even stepped in the gym. So
that's amazing.
You don't really have to step in the gym. I mean, the gym is great for if you want to be muscular and cut and lean and look good, but you can lose weight without even going to the gym.
Yeah, you're a perfect example. You look great
if you just eat right.
Yeah,
it's really crazy how fast it falls off if you just eat right, and a little help from I think the little help from the medicines will help, because it help you with that craving. It's like an addiction. If you have a smoking addiction and you need it off, and I'm sure there's something for that.
They are definitely appetite suppressants. You have to make sure you are still eating properly, because then your body will start storing fat and stuff that you don't want.
Yeah.
If you're not careful and you don't, and all this needs to be done with some medical supervision too. You talk about you went and saw your doctor and you had checkups.
He prescribed it.
Blood work and stuff like that.
Yeah, he prescribed it. But nothing's worse than getting diabetes and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but everything in moderation. You don't want to ever get addicted to anything. Even addicted to weight loss is bad, right? So I think it's just you have to do everything in moderation and be smart. Be smart about it.
Well, I think people need to do a little research too, and maybe hire a coach, because there's little tweaks I had to learn too, because in my family, my dad had a heart attack at a young age, died at a young age from a heart attack. So that's always been a concern in my family. There's high blood pressure, there's cholesterol, stuff like that. So had to start watching all those things. And, there's certain things that I can't out eat or out train some of these things. It's hereditary. I'm going to have to take a medicine for it.
Yeah.
There's just those things. But I watch that and monitor that. But my family was always focused on heart healthy. It's like I'm very salt sensitive, because salt was the first thing they cut when my dad had his first heart attack. My mom cooked everything low sodium, XYZ. So like, man, if something gets over salted, cool, game changer.
You're sneezing.
Yeah. But then like heart healthy is not necessarily diet lose weight healthy, because you start making vegetables or salad and you're putting olive oil on or something. Well, every teaspoon of olive oil is like 150, 175 calories.
Yeah.
If you're trying to stay at 1,500 calories, maybe you did just have a nice big salad for dinner, but you put 3 tablespoons on there. Well, maybe you were at your 1,500 calories. Now you're up there around 2,000 because you put 3 tablespoons. And it was heart healthy, but it wasn't diet healthy.
Yeah. You got to learn to eat. Fast food's no good. Panda Express and those things don't work. But I started finding things I really like. There's a poke place, and instead of putting rice in the bottom, I would do salad instead. So I did a lettuce bowl. Chipotle can do a lettuce bowl. Kava can do a lettuce bowl. You can do lettuce bowl, and you can put all the stuff. It tastes, when it's all said and done, you shake it up and you eat it. It tastes delicious.
Yeah.
And you're not eating it, And like I said, the egg white scrambler with a little bit of hot sauce on top, and and then some vegetables in there, and you'd be like, wow, that's really good too. So once you learn how to do it, it actually seems quite easy. Yeah. To be honest with you, it's pretty amazing how easy it is. I mean, I think my whole life I was like, maybe like you, my whole life I'm like, why can't I not lose weight? Why can't I not lose weight? And then I realized after it clicked, and then it's a nice way. I see other people eating the meals, even the ones that we serve here, the portion sizes and how I'm like, how did you eat that entire steak, 3 sides, and have dessert and have that app? How did you do that? That's like 3,000 calories. How did you eat all that in one sitting? I don't even can't imagine it, right?
Yeah.
So it's amazing.
When you physically can't. When you start taking something like Ozempic or one of those too, you physically can't once you get into that.
Isn't that weird?
It'll make you sick.
It's just weird, isn't it?
You'll feel like absolutely like the worst hangover you've ever had from eating. And then you start realizing. I don't know how they did it.
I don't know how they did it. They figured it out.
So. Yeah. The magic behind it. Who knows?
It is magic. It is a magical thing.
Has that changed your perspective at all, being a restaurant owner and now the lifestyle you're living? Are you looking at the size of the portions you serve and the things you offer on your menu? Are you trying to offer other choices as well? Or are you leaving that alone? Because
absolutely.
In Texas, I feel like everything's bigger, right? And there's a certain expectation when you're paying X amount that I should get this absorbent amount of food. But
we still give it to them. We still give it to them. That's their prerogative, and that's what they really enjoy and that's what they expect. But I think sharing with your partner, sharing a meal is probably so simple. You'll save money anyways. So we'll split almost every dinner. I think every dinner we go out, we split it. And I'm not trying to be cheap. It's just smart. I'm not going to eat it all. So we'll split the meal. We'll have half and half. Or she'll get a salad, or I'll get a salad, and she'll get a chicken, and we'll, switch. Yeah. And but no, I mean, I think it does drive a little bit of what we put on the menu. So, like on our brunch menu, we have a chicken egg white omelet now. I would have never had a chicken egg white omelet, but there are a whole bunch of people, and more people like you or I that have discovered that eating healthy is actually you feel better. You feel better overall.
Absolutely.
The best energy. When you start losing weight, you actually feel better than you've ever felt before, because you're taking energy. Like the energy you get from food is kind of jaded, because you're getting good food. I mean, you're getting the good parts of food, and then you have to waste out the bad parts of food, right? That gives away.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're using your own body fat, it's already gotten rid of the bad parts.
Yeah.
So now the way I understand it is like you're getting this energy unfiltered, clean, perfect energy, right?
Yeah.
Because it's stored what it needs, the good stuff. So when you're using your own fat, it really starts to burn. You're gonna feel great. It takes about a week to flip, or a week or two. But once you get that mode going, then that starts the journey, and then it's really easy. So.
Absolutely. But has it made you? Are you altering anything to where like someone comes in and like you've only got a 32-ounce porterhouse steak on your menu? Like, are you now offering an 8-ounce steak that somebody can get?
We had 12 ounces. Now we have an 8-ounce. Yeah, and we have a petite fillet. Okay. So we definitely do things well. We do chicken. We definitely have altered. We provide lighter options. We have a beet salad. We have definitely lighter options. It definitely influences the way it is, and that's just more a sign of the times. I think there's a lot of people that are taking these drugs. Yeah. And I wouldn't even call them drugs. These aids, And I think it's because it's a mind decision. You got to decide, like anything in life. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna like anything. I'm gonna do my business. Or I'm gonna just get it done. It goes back to the original theme we talked about. Just get it done. You're never gonna lose weight if you don't just get it done, right? I'm gonna get it done, decide, and then, you know, you can definitely find and choose. You know, we definitely designed our menu now to have all options, but we still have the 32 ounce. We have football players that come in and they get the 32 ounce steak.
Yeah.
As they should.
Yeah.
You know, they're on a whole other layer,
they gotta
right?
be guarding that quarterback.
If you're playing that many hours on the field, you can have whatever the hell you want, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you need it.
You're burning those calories.
Oh, you got to eat it. You got to get it. So they have that cowboy ribeye that's 32 ounces, 36 ounces actually. So, yeah, that thing's delicious too.
That would be like a whole week's worth of steak for me, man.
They do it in one sitting.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be able to do that. I mean, I could.
But that's the crazy part.
Yeah.
We always do, and it's amazing that I don't know how. Like I said, I look at other people eat. I'm like, how is that possible? But I'm not judging it away. I just don't. It's not physically possible anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and I hope that never goes back to that. To be honest with you, I don't want to get back to that. I feel so much healthier, and I've given myself the best chance of living as long as possible, right?
Yeah.
So I'm giving myself the best chance.
Yeah, you look great. You feel great.
I feel good. Yeah, I feel good.
That's a great way to.
And it also helps in business.
Wake up
I don't know why.
morning.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And when you're lean, everything else falls together. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. I don't think it's everything in life. That's why it's important to balance the yin and the yang, right? Do your gym, eat right, don't drink too much. All these things play into it, and I hate to be judgmental, but you really just can't do those things. You can't, if you want to succeed in life, you can't drink and drugs and all those things to any excess. I mean,
well, I think you can be judgmental without being an asshole. Because to me, when you see that, I think other people, they see discipline and self-control, and they see that and it's representing you. I mean, obviously, if you're 100 pounds overweight, well, how much does this guy care about himself? Like, is this guy really taking care of everything? No,
I was that guy. I was that guy.
You're gonna see that.
I was that guy. So I really don't throw no fault that way. I was that guy, and I just think that it's yeah, you're right. I mean, drinking addiction, food addictions, these are hard to deal with. You know, they're really difficult. But if you can mentally get up in the morning and say, I'm not going to do that, and just do it, then everything else falls into place.
Absolutely.
You know, it's fun because like, you'll probably, if you're single and you're looking for somebody, it's going to help you, right?
Yeah.
And if you need more energy and you try to get through the day, and then your business falls together, your businesses fall together, your work falls together, and people treat you differently, you know? So it's just really important to do all these things. And
absolutely, man. All right. We're going to kind of wrap this up because that way I want to get all our stuff out of the way and we're not like messing up people's mojo back here. But if you could leave your children with one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
That's a good question. I think the best thing to say is I'm going to try to leave them something, right? And that they can leave onto someone else. But I think the thing is like to follow, and it's so cliche, but if you want to do something, just point yourself in that direction. I hope that I can teach them that they can do anything.
Yeah.
You know, and to not be scared to do something and try something. And if you put your heart and soul into it, you will most likely succeed. And even if you fail, you've learned something, you know, and you will, the next time you do something, it won't be, if you don't fail the first time at the gate, you're not going to learn. Right. Yeah. So I think the big problem we have with all children that I try to continually teach them is that it starts with accepting blame and not giving excuses. So when they say something like, you didn't do your homework, and well, why? It's not my fault. It's because, like, you know, I just had to. That's not the attitude. You know, and that goes with work too. If I have a server or a chef or anybody, hey, this is not right. Oh, it's not my fault. The person changed its sides, and then no one wants to hear that, right?
Yeah.
Just say, okay, I'll do better next time, you know, and then just do better.
Yeah.
And do it right. There's nothing wrong with failure. There's no one out the gate is lucky. You look at everybody in life, right? Every single person in life, sports, golf, anything, right? You fail. It's how you pick yourself up and how you go, okay, I'm not going to do that again. I'm not making that mistake again. I'm going to do it better this time. And that's what learning is. And if they can figure that out, if you can figure out how to blame yourself, fix that problem, and learn, then you're going to, that's going to just take you up the ladder, and that's how you succeed. You know, so it all boils down to like that. And so I teach my kids that, and I hope it's starting to sink in. Like, okay, instead, don't excuse. Just say, okay, I got it. I'll do better. I'll pass that test next time. I'll do better. And that really is, that goes everywhere. So
yeah, failures are not a roadblock. It's a stepping stone. It's a learning experience. And if more people like you could teach their kids that and have that outlook, it allows for progression.
Yeah.
And you learn.
Yeah, I hope they take that from me. I really do. And my wife, both of us. I mean, like I said, she's not here right now, but we were lockstep with our ideas, and we're lockstep in how we do that. And she instills that in our kids as well. And I think that's awesome. Something really important.
Right on. All right. What we end every show with is, it's called Common Sense. So now you got to give us your 2 cents. Maybe that's something I haven't asked you, something you're passionate about, something you want to throw out there, something you want to talk about. It can be whatever. It's your platform at this point to give us Derek's 2 cents on anything he so chooses.
My 2 cents. Well, love your wife, love your kids, work hard, get some sleep, take some me time, and drink some good bourbon and have a nice cigar. Those are probably the keys of life, right? That's the happiness right there in a nutshell.
Yeah, man. So I agree 100%. Well, man, I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing with us.
I appreciate you.
I've really enjoyed sitting down. I know everybody's going to enjoy hearing your story and hearing about all this. So I want to thank you for that, man. And I also really want to thank you, man, for opening up your place, your home away from home to us.
Thank you.
And letting us do this, man. It's been a true blessing to us, and we've really enjoyed it. We hope it's brought some benefit to you guys, too. And
yes.
It's been cool to do it with you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you and your wife deeply for this.
Thank you so much. We love it.
All right, man. All right. Well, we appreciate it, brother.
Thank you. See you, Garrett.
All right.
Thank you.
Right on.